Hey everybody, I'm Brandon Jones. Last week I got to play Just Cause 4, a game that I am very excited about, and I know what you're thinking. There's a lot of open world games right now. Even Hitman 2 is kind of an open world game. Red Dead Redemption is amazing, and online is coming out soon. You might not be done finishing Spider-Man or Assassin's Creed Odyssey. There's a lot of things to be excited about as far as open world action games are concerned in 2018. But Just Cause 4 is a lot of fun, and there are some specific things that I took from my short play session. I played about 3 or 4 hours of it, and there's just a couple specific things I want to talk about because it is coming out very soon. As far as how it is different from previous Just Cause games, and as far as if you are into action games, if you're into open world games, why you might want to pay attention to Just Cause 4. Now, if you're unfamiliar with Just Cause, you play as Rico Rodriguez, who's been played by many different actors throughout the franchise, but is a very run-and-gun, one-man army, somebody that just goes in and causes a lot of chaos and gets the job done. And as the franchise has moved on, they've tried to incorporate more people, kind of in a mercenaries type of way, where like you have troops that'll fight along with you, and they take it to an interesting level in Just Cause 4. So there's an ongoing war that is happening at all times, and you can actually see the front line of that war and kind of how the opposing forces are surrounding you and surrounding the areas that you have basically freed. Like, you can go other areas in the continent, but as you cross over this battle line, you can very clearly see where that battle is. The ground is scorched, it's all black, there's fires and explosions, you can hear it from a long ways off. And so it's interesting, not only having something like that in an open world environment that you can go and see from a great distance or fly over, because Rico can fly in this game, but you can also affect that. And so at certain missions, you will go and you will recruit certain soldiers that will then be tallied as far as like your general troop strength is concerned. And then there's some missions where if you want to advance that line and move into new areas and gain new advantages for doing so, then you can go on missions to train those people, those troops that you have recruited as well. And so that involves a lot of AI. I get nervous when I do stuff like that. It's not necessarily a like you're guiding them around, but they'll go and they'll have to drive vehicles sometimes, or they'll go and operate weapons, or they'll go and hack computers and you have to defend them. And escort missions is the wonderful term that I was looking for. I normally am nervous about stuff like that, but they were pretty smart and they guided me in the directions that I wanted to go, and I just had to drive them around or point them in the right direction. And those missions strengthen your armies, and then you can apply those to fight at certain places, thus moving your battle line back. And then I'm assuming, even though I only got to play about 3 or 4 hours with the game, that will keep happening throughout the campaign, and that's how you keep pushing forward. So there's a bunch of different types of missions that you can do in the game. There's operations, which are big, huge, multi-mission campaigns. So you start one of those with a specific NPC or with a specific story arc, and then it takes a long time, and then you close that operation, that big series of missions, and then you're done. Region strikes, which are more focused, like I said, on those battle lines or actually pushing that line forward. Training recruits. Stunts, which is self-explanatory, you can imagine. I didn't do a lot of that stuff. There's a lot of hand gliding stuff. I don't know how many different types of stunts there are, or if that's worth doing across a long period of time, but you can do that. Then there's also exploring ruins, which is interesting because one of my complaints about Just Cause 3 was that they did a good job of making the environments look more unique. The environments in Just Cause 1 and 2 were kind of cookie cutter. Like, there were a lot of different sizes of areas, but when you would see one city, you'd kind of see them all. When you saw one little settlement, you'd kind of see them all, and bases and stuff. And so it didn't really matter because it was just fun running around blowing stuff up. But as sequels went along, Just Cause 3 really tried to have its own particular style and separate different towns from each other. And I think Just Cause 4 is doing so much more geographically. And so not only will you see different towns, you see them built into different, taking advantage of mountains that are nearby or oceans, or looking like they're built more into that environment naturally. I like the environments that I saw, but in particular with exploring ruins, it's another example of how it gives like a little bit of a Breath of the Wild feel, where it is fun to just go out into the world and discover strange things. And one of those is going in and discovering these old ancient ruins. The one that I did was there was a gigantic Raiders of the Lost Ark ball that I had to use my grapple, which we'll get to in a second, and maneuver it around. And so it was fun not only using my grapple in that way or exploring. I think it fell down this like gigantic cylinder that like went into the planet, and there was a big deep cave down there, and so it was fun exploring those things because, like I said, he's very mobile. You can zip around on a wingsuit, and you can zip around with your cables, which we will get to in a second. But so the mission structure, there was always something to do, and just the sense of that ongoing war throughout the map was interesting, and I haven't seen a lot of action games that have done something like that as far as representing wartime, and I'm curious how that is going to help my investment in not only just having fun in every Just Cause game, but actually caring about my progress and actually tracking this army moving across the map. So the main point of the whole game is to destroy this big tower that is on the top of a mountain that is in the middle of this huge island. There's a bunch of biomes, but the big snowy area is right in the middle. There's a big tower there that's causing a lot of crazy weather to rip up the island. And apparently something having to do with Rico's dad disappearing, and he's somehow involved. I'm not a huge fan when Just Cause gets too serious. The leader of the Black Hand, which is a PMC that's on the island that's causing a lot of problems, is Gabriela Morales, and she's very different from a lot of dictators that we've seen in Just Cause before. And so I'm excited about her kind of bringing more of the comedy back to it, or just kind of the outlandishness, kind of like a Fast and the Furious vibe. Like, I just don't like it when Just Cause is too serious. A lot of the cutscenes that I saw from very early in the game were very serious. But the game does also have to do with big, crazy weather, and apparently a big machine in the middle of the island that causes all this weather to happen. And so you have to figure out what happened to Rico's dad. You have to shut down the Black Hand. You got to blow this big tower up. And so I like how straightforward it is. They were very straightforward about it at the preview event. They're like, you just got to blow this thing up, and then boom, you win the game. So what's interesting about the weather, I didn't do any missions at a preview event. I saw a mission played at E3 when I went and checked out playing the game with Avalanche, and they demonstrated that there were things that you could do. There's like big air cannons that you could use to like move tornadoes around. During my play session, I tried to get a sense of like how big the map was and what the mission structure was, and so I didn't really mess around with the weather too much. But I did check out a tornado. You could see it like from a very, very long distance. Tornado was just running around, picking up cars and trees and smashing up buildings. I think it'll do damage, but I don't think it'll do like permanent damage. There might be points in the story where you will destroy something specifically, a landmark or something. Maybe that will stay destroyed. But I got the vibe that if this thing tears through and rips up a town, they want to rip up that town again because it's amusing to watch, and so you're going to want to see that again. And I did specifically fly over to the the desert biome, to check out the sandstorm. You definitely cannot see anything when you're flying in that. It looked like it was doing damage. It was causing the helicopter that I was in to fly around. I bailed on the helicopter not because the sandstorm was destroying it, because you can move around through vehicles very quickly in Just Cause, and so I was just flying around to see if I could get in another vehicle. So I'm not sure quite what the damage a sandstorm can do. There's also blizzards, and there's also thunderstorms. I could see thunderstorms from a distance, but I didn't go over there to investigate that stuff, and I'm not quite sure how that stuff works again with the campaign, how much you come across those things, how many missions, directly integrate them, and how many times you'll be doing something randomly and you'll just have to deal with a weather event. But there's weather, there's people involved, you have to figure it out, and you have to deal with all this crazy weather. Finally, one of the last things that they're excited about, that they should be excited about, and it's something that they should invest in making the Just Cause experience better, and that is your grapple. So again, maybe I should have explained this early in the preview, but if you don't know, in Just Cause, you have a grapple, Batman Tenchu style, and you can go anywhere on the map, and you can, grapple people and move forward and kick them, and you can, over the course of the game, you've been able to do crazy things. You can tether things together. You can make those slam into each other or go flying off. And they've gradually upgraded the functionality of what this grapple can do. And it's interesting what they are doing in Just Cause 4, because when I first heard about it, I thought, that sounds interesting, but I don't know how much of that I'm going to use in a practical sense. Like, if I need to get somewhere really fast, I'm going to grab the fastest vehicle I possibly can. Probably not going to drive anywhere. I don't remember driving anywhere really in Just Cause 3, because you can open up a parachute, or you can, pull out your wingsuit and go flying around. And so you don't really need vehicles in this game. So there's crazy things you can do to vehicles, but I don't really need to. And if it takes a lot of time to do it, and it's amusing maybe once or twice, how often is this going to be a part of my regular gameplay experience in Just Cause 4? And this preview answered it, and it was one of my favorite things about it that I took away from and I'm excited about Just Cause 4. So the way this works, there are 3 main grapple types you can have. There's airlifters, retractors, and boosters. Airlifters are balloons. They make things go up in the air. Retractors, if you attach them to 2 things, they basically make that length of wire shorter. So you've attached something to a wall. If you attach a helicopter to the floor, it'll drop the helicopter or a plane or 2 cars together or a person to the ceiling. It'll make it go toward wherever you shot the other end of that grapple. And then there's the booster, which acts as a little, Tony Stark jet, which you can just throw on really anything. Like at one point, I don't have footage of it, unfortunately, but at one point I was on a 747 and I put it on the back wing and I set it to hold, which we'll get to in a second. And so every time I held down up on the D-pad, the plane had a really hard time flying because I was like pushing it in one direction because I'd set a bunch of booster grapples. So those are 3 different types of grapples. And there's 3 different types of styles that you can set to those grapples: automatic, tap, or hold. Automatic means when I grapple it, it does it. Tap means when I grapple it doesn't do anything, and then I just tap up on the D-pad and then it boosts or retracts or pops a balloon. Or hold, which means you have to hold up on the D-pad. And so you can set what each of those things do. You can set how they do it, and you can also set the speed. So if you have boosters, you can set the intensity. If you have retractors, you can set the speed at which it retracts. And so again, all that sounds fun. It sounds fun. And they showed, look, you can make a tank, you can attach balloons to it, now you have a flying tank. But in some ways, not to be critical, but I look at that and it's like, that just looks like a really slow helicopter. Like, why wouldn't I just take a helicopter that has rockets on it instead of making a tank fly? Why I would, and what excited me about the game when they explained it, and worked really well when I was playing it, is you can set up 3 different customizations for all of these different settings. And so you cycle between those left and right on the D-pad. So if you want, you can set up your ultimate airlifter and retractor and booster. You can make them all airlifters if you want, but the way that I played, I had 1 set to airlifter, 1 set to retractor, 1 set to booster, and then adjust specifically, because it made sense to me to have boosters set to hold. So when I would hold them down, they would go. And so it was fun to like set them on the back of Jeeps, and I can make vehicles drive faster, or boats. I got in a sailboat one time and put jets on the back of it and was flying that around, like going off of waves and flying up in the air. It's fun to set it up. I had it on the side of a Jeep one time and it was going so fast it turned into a helicopter and I was flying up in the air. And airlifters, I would set to automatic. So it's like if I attach this to something, I want to turn it to a balloon right away. So it was fun. In one instance, I was being chased by cars and I put balloons on all of them. So not only are these things attached to each other, but balloons are being inflated. And so big trucks are now being like, the front of them are being pulled up in the air and all these trucks are crashing in behind them. And retractors, you might want to be automatic as well, because if I attach it to a car and then the side of the road, I want it to yank that car right away, or a person to a ceiling or something like that. But you can switch it to whatever you want. And I think when you get into tap and hold, that sounds more like Practical Joker type stuff, like you're setting a trap and you want to see people go into it, or you want to set up little physics tests and stuff like that. And because you can switch back and forth between 1, 2, 3, your different presets, it's really fun to experiment, and it's really fun to know you, like, over time, I don't remember what, they're all color-coded, so even just looking at them, you can, over time, remember, okay, I'm set to airlifter right now, so I know how to use that. So you don't really have to mess with that too much. I was like, if I'm going to go into the menu and adjust these things on the fly, I don't see myself doing that often. But if I can, over time, pick my favorite way to do each of those individual things, and then can switch between them, that sounds like fun. So those are the major points that made me excited about Just Cause 4. This whole ongoing war mechanic, the idea of these front lines and pushing back, it's really gratifying to see the map become less gray and dark red and scary, and more, you see that front line expanding, the troops are taking over. It's going to be interesting going into areas that are occupied by the Black Hand, occupied by the government, occupied by police, and then pushing the revolution forward and then seeing more of them in certain areas. Again, 3 or 4 hours, I did not have a lot of time to test this stuff, but compared to areas I were in that were liberated versus not, it looks like there could be a change there, and I'm curious to see how that affects a full game experience. The grapple upgrades are really fun, and then of course weather is crazy. It's really fun being in the wingsuit, because the tornado didn't do as much damage as I thought it would when I was by it. Like, you can really just kind of wingsuit around it and you're fine. But it is funny to go into the parachute and that thing will send you up in the air very, very fast. And it's fun to like drive cars into it and have the cars go flying up in the air, or like I said, I'm curious how easy it is going to be to redirect those things if you get weapons or vehicles later on that enable you to manipulate some of those weather effects. So after all of that glowing endorsement of Just Cause 4 based on the short time that I played it, I do have one concern, and that is that Just Cause 4 has some visual issues. The engine that's running it really works when you see these weather effects happen, really works when you have explosions, you have a lot of crazy physics with vehicles, when you're really moving through this world at high speeds. But when you really get down to, focusing on character models and just the people that inhabit the world. At one point I went underwater. There wasn't a lot going on out in the ocean, and it was a preview event. The game is coming out pretty soon though, but that is just one thing that I can definitely draw a direct comparison between Just Cause 4 and something like Assassin's Creed Odyssey or Red Dead Redemption 2 or Spider-Man. If you're used to playing those games this year, and you're like, oh yeah, another great tropical, you got the desert, you got the snow, just a lot of beautiful places. Like, there's not a lot of crazy elaborate animation going on with the enemies that you're fighting against, or the people that you meet in the world, or like I said, the people that you're training and the recruit and training missions, and especially the cutscenes. Like, I was not particularly enamored with the story. I hope it doesn't get too serious, and I don't see myself really caring or investing in a lot of things that are going on in this world. But I hope that you think about this game in the right terms, in that obviously this is a playground game. This is something, like Grand Theft Auto Online. This is something where you just want to see how crazy you can get things, how much chaos you can do, and I'm curious how distracted I'm going to be from wanting to do all of those crazy things, wanting to do the stunts, wanting to mess around with the physics and the grappling and the weather, versus actually committing to the story and actually finishing this war and pushing that wall back and undoing the Black Hand, shutting down Gabriel Morales, and finding Rico's dad or something. I don't know. We'll see what I care about when Just Cause 4 launches, but it's coming out very soon. I plan to review it. I will hopefully be streaming it for you. We can chat about it on twitch.tv/easyallies, and I appreciate you hanging out. Unfortunately, I was not able to capture footage, so I do have some trailer footage, and I do have stuff from B-roll, but that was my experience with Just Cause 4. Look for more coverage from me here at Easy Allies. Thanks for watching.
Welcome to Just Cause 4.